Hello, everyone. Back in 1 Samuel again today, and I hope to be able to go through chapters 4, 5, and 6 today within the 15-minute time period that we have. And yeah, 4, 5, and 6 here in 1 Samuel. It's really these three chapters are following the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord on a journey, and we get to see some really neat things take place around the Ark of the Covenant. And so, starting off in chapter 4, what we see is there's this battle that's about to take place between the Philistines and Israel. And so, looking at the scripture in chapter 4, what it's pointing out is a physical geographical location where the Philistines were setting up camp to get ready to go against the Israelites. And so that place geographically says in verse 1 uh, that they were encamped beside Ebenezer, and the Philistines encamped in Aphek. So Aphek and Ebenezer being close to each other, and here they are camped out, and they the Philistines, put themselves in battle array against Israel. And when they joined battle, Israel was defeated by by the Philistines, who killed about 4,000 men of the army in the field. And when the people had come into the camp, the elders of Israel said, "Why has the Lord defeated us today before the Philistines? Let us bring the ark of the covenant of the Lord from Shiloh to us, that when it comes among us, it may save us from the hand of our enemies." So, first battle doesn't go well for Israel. They lose 4,000 in this battle with the Philistines, and so the result is saying, "Hey, let's go to Shiloh, get the Ark of the Covenant, bring this into battle with us." And then in verse um, uh, actually, before getting to verse 5, so they did that. They go to Shiloh in verse 4. They get the Ark of the Covenant, and there with the covenant uh, were the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the Ark of the Covenant of God. And we already saw yesterday in our study the basically the moral decadence, the not following of commands by Hophni and Phinehas, the sons of Eli, as far as their role as priest. And and in verse 5, and when the ark of the covenant of the Lord came to the camp, all Israel shouted so loudly that the earth shook. And what's interesting about this what happens here is, first of all, the ark of the covenant comes in. The people of Israel are absolutely excited, and it says the Philistines they heard this, and when they heard it, it was, "What does the sound of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews mean?" Verse 7, so the Philistines were afraid, for they said, "God has come into the camp." And they said, "Woe to us, for such a thing has never happened before. Woe to us, who will deliver us from, or then the question, who will deliver us from the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods who struck the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. Be strong and conduct yourselves like men, you Philistines, that you do not become servants of the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Conduct yourselves like men and fight." So the Philistines fought, and Israel was defeated, and every man fled to his tent. It says there was a very great slaughter, and there fell of Israel 30,000 foot soldiers. So some interesting things to point out here, just in context of this scripture. One is that the Philistines were aware of the Hebrew God. That is fascinating to me, and even also aware of their history, right? Knowing that they even said, "Hey, these were the gods who struck the Egyptians along, with all the plagues in the wilderness." So um, so there's this recognition, even though there's a recognition of God as one, and then this lowercase gods. But either way, the Philistines are having to deal with this fact, and they're aware of it. They're aware of of the history of the God of Israel, and also the power of the God of Israel. Uh, and then also what we see is that the even with the Ark of the Covenant, the Jewish people lose. And this is going to play out as we kind of see along here, and there's a lesson in this that we're going to see. So just for now, hold on to that, that even with the Ark of the Covenant in the presence, Israel thought, "Boy, we've got this handled. Bring in the Ark of the Covenant, God will deliver. but yet he didn't. Hold on to that because we'll see that play out again as we move along. Before we move along, also I want to point out this, just who are the Philistines? Who are the Philistines? And I want to reference back to Judges in one of our previous studies. Remember Samson? Samson was a judge during the time of the Philistines. And so looking back at Judges chapter 16, verses 23, it says, "Now the lords of the Philistines gathered together to offer a great sacrifice to Dagon, their god." And we're going to see Dagon again in a moment here in 1 Samuel as well. So here they were, the lords of the Philistines gathered together to offer a great sacrifice. And at this time they had Samson, and so they say, "Our God is delivered into our hands, Samson, our enemy." When the people saw him, they praised their God, for they said, "Our God is delivered into our hands, our enemy, the destroyer of our land, and the one who multiplied our dead." And there, at the end of that chapter in Judges, the Samson, that was when Samson was in between the pillars with his eyes completely out, and being observed almost as a circus act with the Philistines. And there in their temple of Dagon, he pushes the pillars apart. Just this answering of God to this last prayer of Samson to give him the strength to do this. And there was a massive death toll of the Philistines in that area. And I think it even gave a number to reference back here. Yeah, it says verse 27 back in Judges again. "Now the temple was full of men and women. All the lords of the Philistines were there, about 3,000 men and women." And so after praying for that strength, he does kill the Philistines that were there present. So the 3,000 there. And who were the Philistines? It's an important piece of history to look at that, because the Philistines originated out of the Aegean Sea, right? So out of this area of Greece, they'd kind of come south through the Mediterranean along the coastline. So they were considered a sea people. They were a very strong people as well. And we're going to see the 5 cities that they ruled during this time. With the Philistines as well, something to point out is we also see the origin of the word, or at least the where the word Palestine comes from. So with the Philistine peoples, this is now an extinct people that exists during this time period, but not in the time or not in our modern time. But yet we also, from that is the word Palestine. And how that came about is Hadrian, who was a Roman emperor in AD 135, wanted to completely wipe out the Jews, wanted to wipe out their history. And so what he did is he looked back at this word Philistine, and knowing that these were a great enemy of the Jewish people, the Philistine, and then this Latin spelling Palestinia, from which Palestine comes from. So Hadrian changed the name of the province of Judea to the province of Palestinia to get this modern day Palestinians. But again, it was all that word Palestine. Just in a moment, the Palestine people were birthed by this name given by Hadrian, and again with the intent of wiping out the Jewish people. As is modern day, there are modern day Palestinians that are trying to wipe them out as well. And of interesting note, as far as that goes, is to look at Psalm 83. And in Psalm 83, verses 3 and 4, it says, "They have taken crafty counsel against your people, and consulted together against your sheltered ones. They have said, 'Come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be remembered no more.'" So we see that with Hadrian. So not only Roman, the Romans trying to do that, but even still to this day, modern day Palestine as well, as we see those wars there. Okay, so back to scripture here. So the Philistines fought. Again, we were left with the lesson of even with the Ark of the Covenant, the people of Israel were not victorious. And then this next section, we see the death of Eli. So finishing up chapter 4, when It says, verse 12, then a man of Benjamin ran from the battle line the same day and came to Shiloh with his clothes torn and dirt on his head. And now when he came, there was Eli sitting on a seat by the wayside watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. So, here would be Eli sitting, and although we're not told it in Scripture, I would imagine that when when after the first battle with the Philistines, when they had come to Shiloh, the people of Israel come to Shiloh to get the Ark of the Covenant, Eli would be aware of it. So here he is as an old man sitting, and it says, for his heart trembled for the Ark of God. So, wondering how it's going. And now he's about to find out. And when the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. When Eli heard the noise of the outcry, he said, what does the sound of this tumult mean? And the man came quickly and told Eli. It says, Eli was an old man, 98 years old, and his eyes were so dim that he could not see. Then the man said to Eli, I am he who came from the battle, and I fled today from the battle line. And he said, what happened, my son? So now the messenger tells Eli, Israel has fled before the Philistines, and there's been a great slaughter among the people. Also, your two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God has been captured. Then it happened when he made mention of the ark of God that Eli fell off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck was broken, and he died, for the man was old and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. So we see this fulfillment. We see this fulfillment. Remember back in chapter 2, where it says Hophni and Phinehas will die, back in chapter 2 verse 34. And so now this has come to pass. They have died. Here's Eli, just getting the news of his sons dying and of the Ark of the Covenant. Basically the Israel people not being successful in victory in this battle. And as a result of this shock, he falls back in his seat, breaks his neck. He's now dead. Now, his daughter-in-law, Eli's daughter-in-law, so this would be Phinehas' wife in verse 19, was with child due to be delivered. And when she heard the news that the ark of God was captured and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and gave birth, and her labor pains came upon her. So in this moment of hearing this news, labor pains come upon her. She bears a son. She names him Ichabod, and which means the glory has departed from Israel. So in chapter 5, the Philistines and the ark. So the Philistines have taken the ark. So they take the ark of the covenant, and they bring it into back into their land. It says, so they take it from Ebenezer to Ashdod. And so Ashdod being one of the 5 cities that we'll look at it in a further study. But took the ark of the God, brought him to the house of Dagon. And I'm running out of time here. I've only got 2 minutes. So what I want to say here, we'll look at this in more detail together next time, is there's this. So the Philistines have taken the Ark of the Covenant. It goes from Ashdod to Gath to Ekron, and what you see in this section of Scripture is that everywhere that the Ark goes, there's a plague. There's plague, and then there are these tumors that break out, and then not only that, during this time period, one Dagon, the god of Dagon, comes from a Babylonian god, right? So this Fertile Crescent, right? Remember this Fertile Crescent where you've got Babylonia, you've got Haran, which became Syria, and then on down into what's known today as Palestine, right? So Palestine, are currently this land of Canaan. So this entire Fertile Crescent. Well, Dagon would mean grain, and so the Philistines had adopted this god Dagon, and so they now take the Ark of the Covenant and they put the Ark of the Covenant in this temple of Dagon. And so when they put the Ark there, they come in, and this sculpture of Dagon has fallen. So they set it back up, and the structure of Dagon falls again, this time breaking off the head and the hands. The head representing wisdom, the hands symbolizing power. And so here it is this setting beside of gods from this perspective of the Philistines. And I am running out of time. I've only got 15 seconds. I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to continue right into the next video. So here we go. I'm going to stop this now, and we'll continue together in the next video.